Johnny.
4 weeks. 20 papers, that's $2 plus tip.
Gee, Johnny, I don't have a dime. Sorry.
Didn't ask for a dime. $2.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema podcast, the show where we go back to that blockbuster new release wall of our memory. We grab a copy off that shelf, we pop it in our VCR, and we see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that guy's Mike.
Buck up, little campers.
And together we're here to help you navigate all the landmines littered down memory lane. So Mike, I was flipping through channels the other day, and as I want to do, and found a little selection that came on about a movie we used to watch quite a bit back in the day, and it made me think about a genre we haven't covered quite enough on the podcast, oddly enough. That's the 80s teen comedy, Mike.
80s teen comedy, yes.
You look at our show's repertoire, we haven't hit a lot of those yet. Don't know why, but we want to try to rectify that by hitting one of the bigger ones, Mike, and we're going to talk about Better Off Dead from 1985.
Right in our wheelhouse.
Exactly. This movie was rampant on HBO, as I recall. It was one of those heavy rotation ones, and I think that's kind of what built part of the cult following for sure on this one. Certainly was the result of any success in the theater, and I suppose we'll get to that here in a little bit. But Mike, it's time to jump in. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, so this is directed by a guy named Savage Steve Holland.
Savage.
I don't know if Savage is on a birth certificate yet, Mike, but that's his...
Okay.
That's his Directors Guild name, is formerly Savage Steve.
Savage Steve.
He had a little run there in the 80s where he did 3 big teen movies. This was the first one, Better Off Dead, followed up by its successor, One Crazy Summer, which they kind of blended into the same movie, if you ask me. But,
yeah.
And he also did another movie a little bit later on called How I Got Into College, which is a bit of a spoof. I think starring Laura Flynn Boyle at some point there, Mike. But then he went away again. We never saw him.
Wow.
He went on to do a lot of kids animation, quite heralded a lot of awards in that area there. Eek the Cat on Fox Kids was a big one of his. And as I found in a lot of my research, Mike, a lot of his stuff is autobiographical. And we'll kind of flesh that out here as we go. I think the most important thing here, Mike, is he's one of the animators for the Whammy on the show Pressure Luck.
Oh, there you go. A little demon.
Sound drop we use quite a bit on this show to demonstrate some frustration or despair. Mike, we use that quite a bit. It was also written by Savage Steve as well. It had a budget of $3.5 million, Mike. It was released in the summer, August 23rd of 1985.
Wow.
So this is a pretty, iconic movie in terms of cult status, Mike, and I think a lot of that has to do with the actors that were cast in it. So, Mike, why don't you flesh that out? Tell us about the actors that were in the movie.
Actors.
Acting.
From what I saw, and as soon as I've watched on HBO Max, it on their little playbill for the icon, it just said John Cusack. So. That's all I know. John Cusack. I guess this is his first big. Yeah, I got my air quotes going on. His first big movie. I know he was in something with his sister before this, but this is our last time we've seen John Cusack since Con Air, where he was driving multiple vehicles, and he was the young, wet behind the ears FBI agent guy.
Yeah.
I was trying to think. There's so many movies that he's been in that I've liked, and I think he flirted with running for president at one point. I think his politics are a little right of somebody like George Clooney, but a little less. He's not quite as wacky as Mark Ruffalo. He's in that middle area. But he did. Yeah, he tends to avoid politics, thankfully. I hope. Mm-hmm. I know he made some anti-Semitic remark on Twitter recently, so let's let that go.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? But yeah, I was thinking, he has a good range. He's been a serial killer. He's been, con man. I think most people think of him in this movie, One Crazy Summer, and a movie like Say Anything. Where he's the guy who's going after the girl and.
Yep.
I think forever his legacy is those three movies, at least in my mind. You know, and
He's like the everyman who's also the underdog, but just kind of like blends into the background like a wallflower. You know?
yeah. You know, he's an underdog, and he's will he get her? Won't he get her? Kind of thing. And
Yeah.
this is that movie that started it all. This is great. And then he plays Lane Meyer, who's a lovable loser who is dumped by his 6-month girlfriend Beth, who is played by who we last saw in Nightmare on Elm Street. She was, I think, Rod. When she was Rod.
Yeah, she was Tina. She got eviscerated in front of Rod in his tidy whities.
Yeah, poor Rod. He got fingered for that crime, unfortunately. But yeah, she was also in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. She had a bit part in that. I remember that.
There's a lot of crossover from that movie.
She has one of his faces. Yeah. You had the typical teenage movie trope where the parents are kind of, let's say, oblivious to everything going on around them, especially the mom who's really into cooking weird stuff. That's kind of the the continuing little sight gags of mom fixing something stupid.
You see, it's got raisins in it. You like raisins.
The dad is played by David Ogden Stiers, Major Winchester from MASH.
Right.
And he was a voice in Spirited Away that we watched before. Yeah, and he plays the lawyer dad who is more worried about the paperboy hitting his garage door windows than anything else.
Bless his heart.
Has no idea what his one son's doing, and can't get his other son on the straight and narrow.
Good-natured but oblivious, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very oblivious. We have Diane Franklin, who's kind of repeating her role later on. She does in not Wayne's World, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Bill and Ted, yeah.
Joan of Arc. And this movie, she's a French exchange student who lives across the street from Lane, and she is kept kind of hostage by Ricky and his mom. And Ricky is played by we got to talk about him, Dan Schneider. He plays Ricky in the movie. He's kind of the Lothario character who holds poor Monique hostage across the street. He's a real loser character, and in real life he becomes a guy who becomes this mega producer, produces all these shows for Nickelodeon, and great shows. He has his own little production firm called Schneider's Bakery. He did Drake and Josh, iCarly and Victorious, Sam and Cat. Kenan and Cal, and just great shows. But you find out later he got Me Too'd. He was kind of a bully. He may have been kind of tough on the set. Not even tough is a bad word, but he might have been a lot worse than that. He could have
been the R. Kelly Nickelodeon. Who knows?
Yeah, he could have been putting his tentacles on certain girls. And that's still room. That's hearsay. Now I'm not going to. I'm just not going to slander this.
Allegedly.
But yeah, so he's in this movie, and like I said, watching it many years later, knowing about him, kind of makes it a little creepy when you see him putting his hands all over the Diane Franklin character.
Monique, I had no idea where you'd gotten off to. You shouldn't make me worry.
Yeah.
A little off-putting. I can't forget my last guy in here is Curtis Armstrong, a.k.a. Booger from Revenge of the Nerds. I forgot his name in Moonlighting, but he was a great side character in that TV show on ABC.
Great there, yeah.
But yeah, he plays Charles de Mayer on this one, and he's kind of Lane's friend, air quotes again. He's there to he's the hanger-on weirdo who spent 7 years in high school. Another trope kind of character, but great little lines. He adds a lot to it. That's that little Cheshire cat smile and just little buckaroo and what's wrong, little trooper? He's there to help Lane out, but not really. So
quite addicted to drugs that aren't really drugs.
That's right. The snorting to the snow scene was pretty good.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
This is pure snow. It's everywhere. Have you any idea what the street value of this mountain is?
Charles.
Wait a minute, hold it. Outrageous. I think I froze the left half of my brain. Look, I can't move my right arm.
But there you go.
All right, thanks, Ben. So some other notes about that cast. You mentioned the mom, that's played by an actress named Kim Darby. You might recognize her, Mike, from she co-starred with John Wayne in True Grit.
Okay.
Yeah, it grew up to be her. And just a funny side note here. She on an episode of Fantasy Island, she actually married a character played by Larry Linville, who is Major Burns. And
No.
she's been married to both majors on MASH
That
in her
is
acting career.
wow.
Crazy, right? Dan Schneider's role was also considered for Clint Howard, which I think would up the creepy level exponentially.
Wow.
I remember I was listening to our show we did with our friend Molly a few weeks back, and you were explaining to her Clint Howard's child character on Star Trek.
Plays a really creepy child alien too in the original Star Trek series. He doesn't say any words, but he has a voiceover that just talks through people's brains.
Molly, I'll send you a video link to that, but tomorrow morning. I don't want you to see that before you go to bed tonight. I want to give you one more night of peaceful sleep before you see that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
I see.
That image has haunted me ever since.
You had the laugh they'd like dub for him. It's just
it's completely horrible.
It should be a meme somewhere out there. That's just the ultimate creepy.
So yeah, speaking of ultimate creepy, we can't go without mentioning the actor Scooter Stevens, who played his little brother Badger here.
Yeah,
uttered not a word, but easily one of the most memorable characters of this movie. And we'll get to his exploits here as we talk about the film. John Cusack, there's several stories about him being very angry about this film.
Really?
Legend says that he walked out of the screening and kind of let director Savage Steve Holland have it about how you ruined my career. My wife went to go see him in Asheville, I believe, a few years back, and he claims that story's not true. They work together again in the next film, but I think he's come to embrace this film a little bit, given the cult popularity of it, but not always happy there in the early front, at least. We mentioned this story is autobiographical. Savage Steve Holland went through an experience where his girlfriend broke up with him, and he actually did consider suicide when he was a teenager. And a lot of the dark humor, I guess you find out this was actually based on some real stuff. Comes to his suicide attempts where he came to the realization that he was being crazy, but he kind of, I guess, found some closure with that through writing this film, to the point where his girlfriend that broke up with him called him after this movie was released and apologized. The Fonz, Henry Winkler, was instrumental in getting this movie made, and also with the casting of John Cusack. He saw John Cusack in 16 Candles as one of the nerdy second characters and felt he was worthy of a starring role. So he was critical in getting this movie made. So thank you, Fonzie. Going back to John Cusack here a little bit, he tells a story. He was falsely accused, but accused regardless of a DUI. And as he was doing his perp walk in jail, the prisoners started shouting, "I want my $2" at him. That's great. So he has that to live with. But that was one of the more prevalent themes in the movie, and we'll get to why here in a minute. Speaking of movies, Mike, in 1985, the landscape here in August, you had Fright Night, which we covered a few shows back. A great episode, guys. We encourage you to go back and listen to that episode. Also, Real Genius, which you talked about a little bit with Val Kilmer there, and Weird Science, which is another 80s teen comedy that's probably in our purview. I did talk about, but that was heavy in August. This movie came out on the 23rd of August, along with the movie Teen Wolf, which we are considering covering for our Halloween Werewolf Movie Festival coming up here. We'll talk that here at the end of the show. Also, the movie City Limits, Mike.
Robbie Benson,
satired on Mystery Science Theater,
featuring
Robbie Benson. And me and Mike had this running joke for the last 25 years where all Robbie Benson did in this movie was sit at a desk. He never stood up once, and he was the main villain, but we'll get to that here later.
So evil.
So a couple weeks after this, you had Back to the Future, Beverly Hills Cop, Rambo 2, Rocky 4, and then Cocoon. Those were all the big movies that year. Out of Africa won Best Picture that year. And Better Off Dead came in at a whopping number 89 in terms of box office revenue that year. So not big in the theaters. What was big, Mike, was the music scene in 85. Let's talk about some of the music that was on the top of the charts the week this movie came out. You had The Power of Love by Huey Lewis, tied to Back to the Future. You had Shout by Tears for Fears. Every picture of Tears for Fears you look at them look like a gay couple that just broke up and not talking to each other. But we'll talk about that later.
One's always looking away.
They're always angry, yeah. You also had the song Never Surrender by Corey Hart.
Never.
Apparently he found his sunglasses, Mike. You had the song St. Elmo's Fire by John Parr.
A lot of angst. A lot of white man angst there.
Yeah, I can climb the highest mountain. I can cross the largest sea, Mike. You had Smoking in the Boys' Room by Motley Crue. That's a cover, I believe, right, Mike?
Yeah, it was Brownsville Station back in 70, 71. How y'all doing out there?
Are you reaching for the stars and keeping your feet on the ground, Mike?
There you go.
Yeah, some other things going on in 85. On May 31st, 100 people died by 41 tornadoes in 4 states. We only mentioned this tragedy to shamelessly plug our episode of Twister, which was the first video we ever did, first podcast we ever did. That's pretty dark. How's that?
Wow.
I already have several people saving my spots in hell, Mike, so don't worry. Michael Jordan won the NBA's Rookie of the Year. He turned out to be a pretty good player at the end of the day. Popular Halloween costumes that year, of course, Mike, were Hulk Hogan, Elvira, Richard Nixon, and Ronald Reagan. Only one of which is still alive, sadly. R.I.P. Terry Bollea. We also discovered the first wreckage of the Titanic. Was this year, Mike.
All right.
Which led to a fairly successful movie of the same name.
I was going to say, without that, we wouldn't have that scene.
This was the first year that we premiered Blockbuster and Papa John's, securing a Saturday night routine for me for several years to come. So,
only one of those is still around.
That's right. So, Mike, I think we've talked about the prologue long enough. It's probably time to jump in the theater and grab some popcorn and pay our $1.20 for the tickets for this. So, you ready to go?
Yeah, everybody wants some.
All right, Mike, please hit the button. We get some interesting 80s pop music playing on the radio as John Cusack's waking up, and we see that he's obsessed with his girlfriend to the point where he's plastered the inside of his bedroom with nothing but pictures of her. A little creepy when it's all said and done, right? Of course, he gets into the shower with his socks on, and several shots of his hygiene here that are questionable. But he's going to his ski tryouts that day, and he brings Beth along with him, along with his cohort Charles DeMar, played by Curtis Armstrong. And the tryouts are being led by the captain of the team, Mike Royce Stalin.
Stalin.
Yeah, who was played by an actor who never played
a
role.
Yeah.
His name was Aaron Dozier. He played Roy Stalin here. He actually quit and became the ski coach at Boston College after this movie. So he actually was a skier.
Oh, so he did his own stunts.
Yeah, in his acting shows.
Buenos dias! Looking really good today, buddy. Looking real good.
But of course, he notices Beth right away, and as John Cusack Lane Meyer goes down the ski slope, he's got to beat 58 seconds and be on the team. And of course, he fat fingers the stopwatch and makes sure that he gets a disqualifying time. Mike, and unknown to John at the time here, but Beth was planning to break up with him before the tryouts, and then of course, adding insult to injury at the end of the tryout, she breaks up with him, and that's it, setting him into a downward spiral, let's say, Mike. He actually walks in the door, and we get introduced to his family here, of course. There's his crazy mom who's vacuuming and oblivious to most of reality, let's face it, and his father, played by Major Winchester, of course, and his little brother, Badger, who lives upstairs and significantly younger than him, Mike. But Badger's a quiet, odd child, and he's obsessed with his tech and his trashy women, Mike. And he's always, fabricating dangerous equipment. But that's one of several sight gags that just inherently adds a whole lot of charm to this movie. The second part of the first act is mostly just his failed suicide attempts, Mike. So much for humor.
It's one of those you couldn't really do today, we talked about this in other movies where there's just some scenes you just couldn't put into a comedy and have it as a teenager as a star, So
we kind of burned that bridge with a lot of teen violence, but back then suicide could almost be considered funny in this context, and believe it or not. But like you said, Mike, to your point, no bueno now.
No bueno. Yeah.
But the second act is just it just kind of piles on the misery that's impounded upon Lane Meyer after this breakup. Several failed suicide attempts, which we'll kind of pass on. There's several bad things in his life that are introduced here, Mike, just to pile on the drama. One is he's terrorized by a couple Asians in a car. Every time he comes to a stop, these guys don't speak English, but the one brother learned how to speak English by listening to Howard Cosell. And they're constantly challenging him to drag races, Mike, and he's in his parents' station wagon. It generally doesn't end well.
No longer the victory-hungry stallion we've raced so many times before, but a pathetic, washed-up, aged ex-champion.
His father, noticing his despair, gets him a job at the local Pigburgers, owned by Rocco, who was the same actor that played Porky. In the movie Porky's, Mike. So I guess he's got a fascination with pigs.
It's such a crazy little place too. You know, they serve hot pastrami, chili dogs, tacos, and burritos, and I guess pig burgers.
Pig burgers. So he's got an impressive boss there, which is great.
Where are you going?
I'm gonna go wash my hands. I got a mold and packed.
You wash your hands on your own time, boy. Now get to work.
Yes, sir. Fat pig.
What?
Fat pig.
Rocco must be Greek. You know, he has that really big menu.
He's as Greek as Gary Busey is, that's for sure. Papadopoulos. His father sets him up with one of his law partner's daughters. That doesn't go well. She buys him out right on the front porch. Of course, Mike, the infamous $2 kid, the paper boy, comes to collect 2 weeks, 20 papers. He owes over $2, Mike.
That's right.
And this paper boy is, let's say he's a little aggressive, Mike, and he's like a little Clint Eastwood. He's got not a whole lot to say. He just wants his $2, and he's threatening with physical violence if he doesn't get it.
And he's a ninja. He just shows up everywhere at the worst time, you know.
Yeah, and of course this is also autobiographical. I guess Savage Steve had a little kid that pestered him for money all the time too, with the same kind of personality. So that's funny. What I like here is that as he's going through his day-to-day angst in a typical high school environment, he's getting hassled by all these people that want to date Beth. And you know, when you break up, everybody can relate to it in a way, especially as a teenager. You feel everybody's out to steal your girl after they've been broken up, and this includes a science teacher. Played by, I think the actor's name is Vincent Schiavelli, who's famously played the ghost in Ghost. And
he was in Fast Times as a science teacher.
Yeah, very creepy, but just a brilliant character actor. Yeah. His mailman, of course. Who brought Badger his How to Pick Up Sexy or Trashy Women book.
You know, he was in Fast Times Original High too.
Yeah, he was over there for as well.
Hi, Badger. Your book on how to pick up trashy women came today. Tell me something. What's a little boy like you doing with big boy smut like this?
And even they go so far as to Barney Rubble on the TV propositions.
I know, and you know, if anyone out there saw the Flintstones or heard our Flintstones podcast, they would know.
Yeah.
If they're Flintstone aficionados, that scene in the movie, Better Off Dead, is the scene where Betty and Barney are wishing for a child.
Wow, they lifted the real footage. How appropriate.
And what really, to put it in a context in this movie, Barney just wished for a child of his wife. In the next breath, he's propositioning Lane for his ex-girlfriend. Kind of creepy.
I don't think the canon's the same life, but I like where you're going with it.
Yeah, kind of weird.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, well, we were talking about a movie here, right?
Oh yeah.
There's as many movies in this era actually do. They have a big dance scene in the middle, Mike. This is the New Year's Eve dance, and Pee-wee's girlfriend is the lead singer. If you remember that, Mike, she's singing up there, and this is where Ricky shows up with Monique, the French exchange student that's lived with them for the summer. She warms up to Lane here and starts to build that bridge where he feels he can talk to women again. And of course, Ricky steps in and snatches her away. But there you go. It's revealed later, and a couple scenes later, that she does actually speak English.
But of course I speak English. I speak very good English. I will not, however, speak Mrs. Smith's international language of love with this reptilian son.
And he's been harassing her and accosting her, Mike.
Life imitates art.
It sure does, yeah. There's a great scene here where they're all at dinner, and the mom is serving they invite Ricky and the French student over for dinner, and they're serving
French dressing.
Several French inspired dishes, including French fries, French dressing, and Peru, which she mistakenly mispronounces as Peru instead of Perrier. Also, Ricky's mom drinks some primer that John was using to set himself on fire in a failed suicide attempt. Of course, she lights her cigarette at the table. Her cigarette at the table, and she blows up, Mike.
She went boom.
And spends the rest of the movie with a big face bandage over her.
This is fabulous liqueur. Reminds me of the moonshine Ricky's dead pappy used to make. God bless him.
Mrs. Smith, no, wait!
So, he starts to develop a bit of a relationship with Monique, and this is where, the montages kick in, Mike.
Oh,
We get a couple. We get a couple of them skiing together where she's starting to build his confidence back. There's a montage where she's helping him restore his car.
The Camaro.
1969 Camaro that he had purchased that has been sleeping in an auto cocoon on his dad's front yard.
Darkening the driveway.
Yeah, Beth told him to buy it because it was tasty, and he
did it.
He borrowed some money from his dad, $200. Like, that car cost $200 back then. But she helps him fix up the car, and there's a wonderful montage there. And he actually, the ending of that is, of course, him facing off against the Asian foes in their drag racing car. And I think Rich Little did the voice of, I think it was a voiceover. I think Rich Little actually did the voiceover for host Howard Cosell here, Mike.
Yeah. Okay.
But I like the fact that he wins the race. And then, the Asian guys held their girlfriends in the car at the same time. And they embarrass them in front of their girlfriends. That was great. But so they've started to develop this relationship, and they're having lunch at school one day, and Roy Stalin, the villain who's now got Beth around his arm at every turn, he insults Monique, and that's just too far for Lane, and he pushes back against the bully, Mike, just like that pivotal scene in every 80s movie where he's had enough.
It's challenging him.
Yeah, he challenges Roy to ski the K-12.
The K-12, dude.
Which is the... no one in the town can do it, Mike. Not even previous Olympians.
Apparently not. But it actually doesn't look that challenging when you actually see the K-12.
It looks like it's pretty standard, mountain. But I know I've never skied before. Yeah, but and immediately after he does it, he realizes what he's bitten off significantly more than he can chew. And there's a little montage scene where he's training with Charles DeMar on how he's going to get down this hill without killing himself to several failed attempts. And Charles DeMar's advice is really, really touching here, Mike. He says,
I'll tell you what to do. Go that way, really fast. If something gets in your way, turn.
He's so helpful.
Yeah, so advice we could all use, but it kind of ends up at the end where as he's making his way to the ski slip that Sunday morning, he's accosted by the $2 kid, Mike.
I want my $2.
And he ends up at the starting line with Roy there, and he just goes, not because he's motivated to race, but he's getting chased by the $2 kid, fearing for his life. And he's doing it on one ski.
Yes.
So everybody down at the base of the hill is looking on through their binoculars, and they see that they're neck and neck, of course, Mike, and the music's playing, the 80s synthesizers are pumping out, and Charles DeMar looks through his glasses and sees there's something following him, he says. And the kid falls 3 miles off the cliff.
But he's okay.
And then, of course, Lane comes through the finish line on one ski, he beats his foe, and then, Ricky Smith's there at the end, and, of course, they do the wonderful, Errol Flynn style sword fight at the end with their ski poles, and Ricky's overcome and taken down. But, of course, there's a little nerdy Ricky Smith female there for him at the end, so everybody's happy. And they drive off, and he doesn't want Beth, he wants Monique, and... They end up, the last scene is them at Dodgers Stadium.
Dodgers, the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah, having a little smooch there at home plate. I guess you could drive a Camaro on the Chavez Ravine.
I mean, if you can allow 50 little kids on bikes to come in.
Yeah, of course, as the camera pulls back, we see that their impending doom is all the $2 kids are going after them. $2. If you look closer, there's a film goof here. You can see there's tire tracks in the infield, as if they've done that thing several times. But then you break into the Thompson Twins song, and then they get the credits rolling, and you just saw yourself an iconic 80s movie, Mike.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. So let's talk a little bit about awards and accolades here, Mike. There were none. It had a paltry $56,000 at the box office, Mike. Not very big at all. It had domestic total at the end of the day at $10 billion. Was not released overseas. So
wow,
that's really all it had in terms of its first go around. But of course, its predominance on cable was something that was just really blazing this in a lot of kids' brains at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that they would greenlight One Crazy Summer based on, like you say, the paltry numbers from this movie. I think One Crazy Summer came out a year later, or maybe a year and a half later.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
they must have seen something in it that was like, okay, Savage, this was pretty good. Maybe we can distribute it a little bit wider, and it'll make more money. I don't know how that movie did, but it makes sense. I don't think they would do that nowadays, because
you got to make $150 million profit to get now, but back then it was probably a different environment. I mean, they put $3 million into this, got $10 million back, and probably didn't spend any money promoting it whatsoever. So it's probably a financial thing. So not a lot of hardware, not a lot of box office, but again, VHS and cable really kind of propelled this to cult status. It's a beloved, nostalgic movie. That's why we're kind of covering it. It's on several greatest cult movies of all time. And this has an interesting distinguishing characteristic, Mike. It's one of the most stolen VHS rentals of all time. This was when the mom and pop shops and the blockbusters started. This was one of the ones that would get rented and never came back quite
That's
frequently. So there you go.
That's a nice distinction.
Yeah, this movie is currently playing on HBO Max as of this recording, and it's I think this month they are releasing a 40th anniversary Blu-ray, which I'm sure will sell out immediately, Mike. So.
Well, this is how slow. I don't know if I'm drug addled or just slow, but it just hit me that we'll just passed his 40th anniversary.
40 years, yeah.
Gosh.
But I mean, again, not the biggest behemoth at the box office, but I mean, I challenge anybody over 50 years old to not know how this movie, at least 5 quotes from this movie. Everybody has seen it. It's just been a predominant thing in our pop culture for quite some time. So let's put it through our grumpy meter, Mike. This is kind of the premise of the podcast. This is where we go back and watch films of our collective youth as young filmgoers, and then we go back and watch them again through the filtered eye of grumpy old jerks and decide how our opinions changed on them one way or the other. So, Mike, let's talk about the first time you saw this movie and your impression on your most recent watch, and talk about what happened, what changed, if anything.
I remember my wife she was my girlfriend at the time, made me watch it probably back around 88, 89 on VHS. She loved it. Because this was her jam, the teenage rom-com comedy, And we were teenagers, so hey, kind of fits that generation. But yeah, watching it back then, like I say, my memory's terrible. But I've liked it, and I've seen it. It's one of those, I've seen enough of it so many times in bits and bobs, and the whole thing sometimes, if I'm lucky, on, TBS, HBO, you name the cable outlet. And it's one of those comedy movies, and comedy, for me, this is my opinion, unsolicited. For me, a comedy movie is a series of skits or gags that can be strung along in a cohesive plot. And I know that sounds simple, but you think about...
Hard to do.
It's hard to do. It's easy to overdo certain things, and it's easy to not put in enough. This has a good balance of, the sight gags. You watch it over and over again, and you realize, you're watching it for those little bits, like the two Japanese guys, or the $2 kid, the animation where the set piece where he's working for Pig Burger and he creates the Frankenstein burger. It's like you remember these scenes so vividly, watching it over and over again, and you know the plot so well that you don't subconsciously it's like okay, loses the girl, he tries to commit suicide, we get it. Oh wait, the mom's cooking tentacles. You know, it's like, oh yeah, this is a scene. This
with
is a scene where,
raisins in it.
yeah, this is a scene where Badger has the girls in his room. You know, it has
Yeah.
those little set pieces in it that are so memorable and just
And like one of the greatest Van Halen songs ever.
yeah, and
With
use
this weird little crazy like fever dream montage that has like no context whatsoever, but there it is.
Yeah, and he did take that scene, kind of overdid it in One Crazy Summer, but that's for another time. That was probably the only, some of the sins, it is so typical tropey now watching it 40 years later, the little scenes of him and, Monique working on the Camaro together, and they probably overdid the $2 kid, like, okay, we got it, even the Howard Cosell Japanese guy, it's probably maybe once or twice too much,
But it's weird because like all those sight gags come back in a very meta way to be part of the plot somehow.
it does weave in really well, and it's almost like hearing a stand-up comedian's callback. You know you're gonna get it, and it's coming. But like I say, that's what I remember it for, is the little set pieces and the little, a lot of the sight gags. The villain guy's kind of forgettable and stuff like that. But like I say, it's those side little things, and the Charles DeMare character played by Curtis Armstrong is just, I appreciate that so much in these teen movies, is the wacky, oddball friend. I put, again, I put that in quotes, but he's, there's so many of those in these teen movies, and this one for me is one of the most memorable. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm kind of the same way, Mike. This was when I first saw this, I was probably 16 years old, 15 years old, something like that. And I could immediately laugh and relate to it. It was relatable material amidst the like absurdity of it, and I probably didn't get how stream of conscious and how weird it was at that time. I just thought it was a bunch of silly sight gags, but it was relatable. We had all been at some age broken up with and felt like your life was over. And they captured the angst of that, and then made fun of the absurdity of it in some weird way.
I was just saying, remember the scene, and I'd forgotten it. It was the Vincent Schiavelli is the math teacher, and Lane's in there with stupid Charles. But all the kids in there are looking at the teacher like they're just falling in love with every word he says.
They're hanging on every breath of geometry.
And every word was like just nonsense, like, trigonometry stuff. And the kid opens up his case, and there's like a dot matrix printer printing out his homework. It's just so surreal and so stupid, but it's like, oh my God, that's a scene you can relate to, like you were saying.
When you talked about comedies, I mean, there's an airplane element to this movie too. Yeah. It's like it was a pure comedy, and it never stopped. It always flowed. There was no lulls. They didn't bog it down with like pretentious melodrama, or like they didn't kind of get like the Jerry Springer moment where they have like a teaching moment. It was all just silly. This movie has been part of my life. I literally have seen this probably over 100 times. It's just, I watch it every year with me and my wife. It's just something it's like a pilgrimage we take every year to watch this movie, because we both have this kind of affinity for it. But its time is very unique, because 80s teen comedies, name one that doesn't have either gratuitous nudity, gratuitous language, or some sort of violence. It had none of these things. You could show this to kids now, and it's one of those things. Its bones were about comedy. It didn't have to rely on anything tittillating or anything like that. It was just it was good because it was funny.
There wasn't even a naughty 4-letter word in it.
No, it was a very rare occurrence for all his films were like that. But it was a very rare occurrence for that era to have an 80s teen comedy that didn't rely on some of those tropes. But of course, again, I will never not enjoy watching this film. I always see something new every time I watch it. Like this time, I noticed that at the cafeteria scene where he's trying to proposition the cheerleader who's dating the basketball team.
Oh yeah.
And if you look at all the basketball players, they're all eating baby food. They're all these giant monstrous beasts, but they're all eating baby food, and they can only grunt. But it's funny. But one of the things that we like best about the 80s movie is it is very trope reliant. And one of those tropes happens to be the 80s villain. They all have a great villain, Mike, and they're usually only as good as their villain. And in this case, of course, we had Roy Stalin, who was just the jerk, and he didn't have much complexity to him, Mike. He wasn't a very layered character. He was just the guy who stole your girl and just bullied you the entire movie. But we found a lot of 80s movies of this type really rely on the bully and rely on the villain to help drive the plot. So we were thinking about other situations where that was prevalent. So for this week's installment of You Just Made the List, Pal, we're going to talk about some of our favorite 80s villains, Mike. So let's pick 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know, whatever, when we get tired of talking about it, and maybe a couple honorable mentions. But Mike, why don't you talk about your first 80s villain?
Oh, I'm going for the lowest of the low-hanging fruit. And that would be the first one that came to mind, and it would be Biff Tannen from Back to the Future.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hey!
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Like, for me, the ultimate, bad guy for a movie series in the 80s.
Yep.
McFly. I don't know how to describe a guy that could be worse than Biff. He's just, at his core, he's just bad, evil. There's no redeeming qualities about him. I mean, he's pure bad, and that's what makes it such a great cardboard kind of character. And to have him in all 3 films as different incarnations, you have like high school Biff in the first one. And then the second one, you have like the older Biff who's able to manipulate time and become ultra rich, and and then the third one, he's like his ancestor cowboy guy, and even he's a bad guy too. It's like his whole family line is just nothing but bullies. And I mean, he tries to get McFly's girl so many times. Trying to beat up his dad. It works on so many levels, and like I say, to see him get his comeuppance in each movie is it's cathartic because he is a bad guy, and there's no other way to describe it. It's just that's what some of these, and you'll probably have a couple more on your list too that are like this, that are some of these 80s teen movie villains are just total bullies, and for a kid to watch it, that's all you want to see. That's all you know. It's just a bully. You don't want to know that, he has real problems at home, or maybe his parents yell at him. You don't know that. You don't care. You just know this guy's a bad guy.
Yeah, in fact, the reason a lot of these films work is not so much that the hero wins, but the bully loses. You're more impressed upon that. So that's a great one, Mike. So my next one's kind of the same line. I'm going to go with James Spader in Pretty in Pink. I'm playing the character Steph McKee. Pretty in Pink is a pretty angsty teen film with Molly Ringwald, of course, and it's one of her trilogies of all these movies where she kind of came out as the 80s queen film. But he's such a creep in this movie because, well, first of all, he's got all his hair, which was fantastic back then. He does not so much now, but he's got the Miami Vice style. He's all his collars and they're always propped up. He's just terrible in this film, and he's like, there's nothing like reining him in. Like teachers just let him smoke in the hallway during school. He's the ultimate villain in that he oppresses Andy. I think her name's Andy, Pretty Pink. And it just gives her nothing but drama and teases her and harasses her. But it's all done out of this kind of deep hidden desire for her. And he knows that he can't have her, and he's rich, and he's not used to having that. He plays a spoiled jerk. And finally, Andrew McCarthy comes to his senses and ditches him as his best friend. But just that glare that he has in every scene, you just want to punch his face in. So I'm going to go with James Spader as Steph McKee in Pretty in Pink from 1986. That's my first one, Mike.
Oh, wow. Good one.
Yeah. All right. So next one's up, Mike. Let's hear what you got.
Based on that one, I'm going to call an audible and pick this one. This guy was a bad guy. He's in the movie Mannequin. He starring Andrew McCarthy and James Spader, I believe.
Oh, I triggered you, didn't I?
Yeah, and but yeah, the night watch from this movie, a very memorable character. He was also, the kind of the commander of the sergeant in the Police Academy movies, but he's G.W. Bailey's the actor's name. I forget his name in Mannequin, but I want to say Felix maybe. Anyway, it's so memorable. Like he's trying to, basically, if you don't know the story, Mannequin is Kim Cattrall is a ancient Egyptian, I don't know, goddess or whatever that comes to life through a mannequin that Andrew McCarthy built in this department store. after saving Estelle Getty's life somehow. But I digress. Anyway, G.W. Bailey plays this night guard that has this dog, and he's always trying to catch Switcher. And, the most if you remember anything about Mannequin is this night watchman who's trying. He tries his best to catch Switcher in the act, and he never does, of course, and he gets his comeuppance. Well, but yeah. So,
in fairness, I've spent my whole life trying to forget anything about Mannequin.
But I'm telling it. I don't know if I guess it's a little bit of the Police Academy movies rubbing off on me too, because he's a bad guy in that movie. But this is more of a teen movie, and like I say, he's just seeing him yelling and running around with his damn dog and going Switcher. That triggered me. So there you go.
I'm kidding, of course. You had me at Kim Cattrall, Mike.
Of course. But there you go.
All right, so my next one here is another 80s film. I'm going to go with Bill Paxton here, Mike.
Oh, wow.
In the movie Weird Science, he played Wyatt's older brother, Chet. Military types that was home for the weekend while they had the house to themselves. And you talk about ultimate atomic wedgies, Mike. Plenty of those were given out here. He is the ultimate older brother jerk who just terrorizes Wyatt. Yeah, also gave some cheap insults to Kelly Brock, so he had it coming. And of course, his come up and says she turns him into a big pile of crap.
Oh, wow!
a speaking pile of crap.
Wow, that's weird.
That scene where that big blob is apologizing to Wyatt at the end of the movie I can't watch that to this day and not laugh.
I'm sorry, Wyatt. I'm sorry for being such a shit to you all these years. And, gee, well, I want you to know that I love you.
But there you go. So Bill Paxton, one of our show favorites, of course, Mike, bringing it full circle, playing a full villain here in Weird Science for 1985. All right, so that's my second pick. So, Mike, what about your next pick?
Game over. It's weird. I haven't seen that movie, and I haven't seen Pretty in Pink. Isn't that crazy?
Shame.
Oh.
I eschewed a lot of 80s rom-com teenage movies. I should have probably been upfront about that, because there's very few of these movies I had seen. I'm like, 16 Candles, I've never seen that movie. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
And of course, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I should consider another co-host.
There you go. I know, right? My knowledge of movies, trust me, I think I don't know, the whole 80s movie and music scene, I just did not jive with. I just tried to bury myself in a rock.
All right.
Anyway, I made it through. But yeah, let me give you some honorable mentions here. A couple movies we saw before had this guy in it. In both movies, he was a jerk. And I'd be talking about Kiefer Sutherland as a bad guy in
Johnny Ace,
Lost Boys, and as David,
and
Ace, and Stand By Me. The character he plays in Stand By Me, again, is just a two-dimensional cardboard, just angry guy. Big older brother is just a jackass. He doesn't really get his proper comeuppance, but he does get
his pride takes a hit, and that's enough for that type to really just be destroyed. So
exactly.
You're right.
Another one would be this is not really a bad guy, but he comes to mind because of his character's kind of rough and kind of mean. It's Powers Booth in Red Dawn. He's the
good one.
He's the pilot who gets ejected from his plane and ends up, teaching the kids how to fight in Red Dawn there. And he's, like I said, he's not evil, but he represents the military complex for us, and the kids kind of feel let down by the military in general, and he represents
the old guard,
the people that couldn't do it, that should have been doing it, the generation that was supposed to protect us,
Right.
But my third pick, this guy was, like I said, after I thought of Biff, this was the next guy I thought of, and it's Ray Walston as Mr. Hand.
Oh, fantastic!
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He's you could say maybe he's the villain, maybe Jefferson's the villain. You could say no.
Yeah.
Mike Damone, he's Lothario. He could be the villain. But no. You think as a kid going to school, you think of a teacher like Mr. Hand, who all he cares about is what is in front of him, and teach these kids and get them the hell out of his school. After
Move along. Yeah.
move along. You're all all of them smoke pot, and all of them don't want to be there. He knows this. That's the best part about it. He knows these kids are jerks, and he's just as big as jerk as they are, and he takes, Spicoli orders a pizza. He takes the pizza and ends up giving it to his. He is the best because he gives it to the students that did the best on their last test and on the grades. And the look on Sean Penn's face, Spicoli was great, just looking around with his big dumb open mouth.
Well, he takes it well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You dick.
It's a great. But Mr. Hand also has the compassion enough to show up at Spicoli's house, and teach him history and 101 to help him actually just pass and get the hell out of his class. And
that story arc those two have is brilliant because it comes back to wasting his time, and he makes him.
Yeah, this is my time, Spicoli.
Isn't it our time, Mike?
Yeah,
yeah. The fact that he comes back and they bond at the end.
As soon as I cruise history, I'm not coming near your side of the building.
Cruise history?
As soon as I pass your class.
If you pass.
Val, you're gonna flunk me?
Don't worry, Spicoli. You'll probably squeak by.
Yeah. Aloha, Mr. Hand.
Aloha, Spicoli.
They kind of understand each other's experience. That's just a fantastic story arc that those two have. That's a great pick. That's
in your hand. My third pick.
All right, very well done. So that pick inspired me. I'm going to use my two honorable mentions to kind of talk about that kind of character. So I want to talk a little bit about Ed Rooney from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, who's played by Jeffrey Jones, who's had some trouble after that role, Mike. But we'll leave all that be for now.
I'm a Dan Schneider.
But yeah, he played the principal that was trying to keep. He had the nerve to keep Matthew Broderick to the same accountable as every other kid in school and make him go to class like everybody else had to, and he had the nerve to make him follow the rules. But he gets played off as the villain here for most of the movie. And same thing with Richard Vernon, who was played by actor Paul Gleason, Mike, who played the principal in The Breakfast Club, who was stuck on a Saturday out of his life, having to take care of these 5 kids that broke the rules. And he comes off as the villain here, Mike. But what's interesting, when I watched this movie as a 15-year-old, I thought he was a jerk. But when I watched this movie as an adult, I'm like, my God, these kids are just a bunch of jerks. This poor guy is just trying to get them to be right.
He's got to spend his Saturday, these idiots.
Yeah, and they're disrespectful to him, and they're constantly trying to bend the rules and lie and cheat and steal to get out. But
in this movie, he doesn't deserve to be backsided by a gorilla.
That's right. But that scene where he gets, the bad boy, Joel Nelson, and he gets him in the closet, and he tears down all those barriers. Okay, take a swing at me, and he puts this, wannabe punk in his place where he doesn't have an audience to perform for, and it's just him trying to be a man, and he just really kind of eats his lunch right there in front of him, and then he chickens out, and the look on Judd Nelson's face when he gets, that dose of reality, in the real world you're nothing. But again, to the audience that's intended to do that as a horrible thing, but to us older guys now, you can completely understand where he's coming from. You actually kind of root for him a little bit, but
a little bit, yeah. You him and the janitor guy are kind of
yeah.
They're two characters you can relate with now. Like I said, as older guys, it's just these guys don't want to be here.
Yeah, and I think that's why those movies are so good and why they hold up is because it speaks to, I'm sure boomers were cheering for these guys when we were watching these things as Gen Xers, thinking these guys are out of touch. But it kind of shifts down every generation. You watch this, the older generation is like, yeah, let those kids have it because they deserved it, and vice versa. So that's why those movies are so well crafted and kind of hold up to this day. But I think my final pick is going to go, of course, to William Zabka, the actor William Zabka, who plays Johnny Lawrence in The Karate Kid from 1984. Again, but there's elements of him here too, Mike, where Ralph Macchio playing Danny. He comes in as a new kid and kind of steals his girl and beats up everybody in his dojo. But Johnny gives little Danny a lot of problems in the Karate Kid. He beats him up on Halloween on the beach, and of course he's on the Cobra Kai team, Mike, and they wouldn't let real Ralph Macchio join their dojo, and he gets beat up several times in this movie, but of course gets kicked in the face by an illegal move at the end of the movie, Mike. But no one talks about that. The crane.
The crane.
Yeah, that's an illegal hit in the karate competition, Mike. But
right, he has that moment where his coach is like, sweep the leg.
Sweep the leg, yeah.
That's his moment. He could have been like the guy you feel some sympathy for, or he could have turned into the villain. And then he turns into the villain. Right there.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any of the YouTube series or the Netflix series Cobra Kai, but apparently it takes that theory crafting about him being, kind of the victim instead of the villain, and kind of plays that out a little bit. I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out, but I got other things to do. So speaking of other things to do, Mike, we got to wrap it up here. So if you have any questions about the show for some reason, you can check us out on our Instagram page, Very Grumpy Nostalgia. Check out our YouTube page. Maybe you'll be the one. If you want to send us an email outlining in great detail how bad we are, you can reach us at nostalgicrumps@gmail.com. And if you're curious about any kind of the show archives, anything about us, you can check out our website. That's at grumpynostalgia.buzzsprout.com. So, Mike, that's going to kind of wrap it up for us today. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Merci buckets.
I'm really sorry your mom blew up, Mike. So for Mike James, this is Justin. We'll see you again next time.
Looking for a movie.